AM 970 WSTX.
This morning, I have with us here today, I have United Way. And they're going to be talking with us, and I want to say they have a specific representative that's here that I had the opportunity to see his presentation and hear what all he had to talk about, and it was, for me, an eye-opening experience. So today, when you give him your ears, I don't see it any different as an organization like the American Cancer Society or that is here in our community, that is beneficial to the community. But the important thing is, until you really know and understand what the organization is about and what it is they're doing, you might be oblivious. You just don't know. But after today, I'm going to make sure with this gentleman, one, you're going to know and you're going to see what it can do for us as a community. You're going to understand the importance of this organization in our community and be supportive of what they do. But with no further ado, I've got the opportunity here, and we're going to move forward and get some of this to you instead of Doug running his mouth. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself first of all? Let's just go start. Let's start like that.
Sure, no problem. Good morning, Doug. My name is Vinod P. Dadlani. I am the CEO of the United Way here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. First, I'd like to thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate having a platform to share our mission work here in the territory and to speak to and have the radio listening audience know what's concurrently happening in our community that they may or may not be aware of. And so and to share with them information that is concurrently happening so they can be informed as you explain to them.
All right. Well, I'm going to tag right off for your presentation the other day. It was just that good in terms of breaking it down, because that's the important thing. People hear the names, but it comes down to who this organization is, where they come from, how long they've been here, what it'll do, all this kind of stuff. That's the meat of it we got to get into in that sense. But I understand that we're having a 38th anniversary, just to prime the folks' mind that you ain't just come.
Correct. The United Way here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, at least our organization, was established in 1970 and 1979. So we are celebrating our 30th year as United Way, but as a non-profit organization in the territory, we actually are celebrating our 79th year. Many people don't know that our organization opens its doors in 1917, and so we actually were the community chest in the St. Thomas St. John district when we first opened our doors, and then evolved into becoming United Way later in the 78 and 79. A little brief history, as I shared in my presentation, is that community chests were formed right after World War I, when communities understood that servicemen who went to serve abroad for war, that came back, that families were affected. Parents, mothers, children, wives were affected by those who went to serve. And so the community banded together to say, we're going to put a community trust together so that we can see and take care of our own community, so those who have sacrificed or those who have given of themselves, that their families are taken care of. And that is the microcosm of how we became what's considered the United Way in our logo, which is the helping hand, and you see a person in that hand. It is simply mobilizing a caring power of a community to support itself.
All right. Now, it's always interesting when we start talking about these things, and it makes sense to you and me, especially when you're in it, kind of thing. Okay, in that sense. But I'm glad that you talk about the open hand and the person in the hand, because United Way, as an organization, independently or in partnership with other organizations, raises funds, right? And the first thing I know, my people, when they get money, we pay going. What this money is for, okay? And then you hear about these national names, and people start thinking, well, okay, you're raising money, and so we supporting some other state or this other place or whatever. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about the United Way in terms of the Virgin Islands, its mission in the Virgin Islands, and how that focus is on the Virgin Islands.
Oh, absolutely. The United Way is an international organization. We do have 41, we are in 41 countries, I should say. So there are over 1,800 offices worldwide. but all of the care and all of the funds that are raised in the territory stay in the territory. This is not something that is a fundraiser of sorts that gets pooled to somewhere in Southeast Asia or gets pooled into Africa. Part of what we try and establish is advocating. And it's advocating grassroots, it's advocating things that are happening here locally, it's advocating to the problems that affect our shores. And I'm happy to say the shores that involve the U.S. Virgin Islands and all 4 islands. It isn't one district or the other. Part of what I shared in my presentation was that coming into the St. Croix district most very recently and having this be under my responsibility basically since the end of last year, what I want to make sure that happens in the St. Croix district is the same level of care, the same diligence, and the same programs are being made available. And that's something that I share with most people in all of my presentations. I look at our work and my work as being very simple. It's providing opportunities to our residents that we have. It's a very simple thing. Having choice and having opportunity can change your life. And if we don't see that we can make that happen together as a community, we lose ourselves in our identity.
Well, I think you hit the mark when you pointed out the fact that the fundraising is focused on delivering here in the Virgin Islands. That's a big concern that's out there in the community, that if you leave it alone, it'll just fester. So I'm so glad that you got that out there. Folks know that supporting United Way in the Virgin Islands is supporting the Virgin Islands, all right?
Absolutely.
Now let's talk a little bit about the mechanism of how United Way works. How do you go through the process, let's say, of determining you're out there and you raise $1 million? How you determine where this $1 million goes?
Well, concurrently, right now, based on plenary meetings that we've had with our board and our board of trustees, there's also been defined programs of areas that we're looking at community investment. As I shared in my own personal story, when I shared with the meeting that you attended.
If I could just derail you just a little bit.
Sure.
Because I think you're going somewhere we're going to go, but
Okay.
what I'm asking about is the mechanism. And I recall you were talking about the nonprofits in the community and how you interface with the nonprofits of the community.
Sorry.
That was the one
that's
I was
okay.
focusing
Well,
on.
as United Way, one thing that we're premised on is making sure that our NGO sector is strong. I have a lot of engagement with nonprofits throughout the territory. We provide some professional development. We will work with nonprofits. We actually help them get established if there's a needed desire. There are many things that go into becoming a registered 501c3, which means you are a registered nonprofit with the IRS. There are base requirements that organizations must have. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people that mean well and want to do well, but may not have the resources to actually be able to have an attorney draw corporate documents or have a CPA come in and help them with their bookkeeping. Something that I've started new is supporting those nonprofits on what they'll need, like a punch list, and then also getting support, because a stronger nonprofit sector in the territory means a stronger sector that will be there to care for our residents. So it isn't about competition. I tell people that the beauty of my name is United.
Right.
It isn't about X, Y, and Z, and so we can do it together.
So when it comes to the funds, let's say Boys and Girls Club.
Correct.
I'll just call Boys and Girls Club because
Sure.
they're a nonprofit and organization. Can they come to United Way and lay out a program, let's say, and in essence say, I would like you to consider us for funding? Is the money somehow disseminated?
Oh, of course, absolutely. Traditionally, what has changed, and I can share with you, United Way has gone through its own type of changes as an organization internationally and even in the United States. We were always considered traditionally fundraisers. And the truth is, to fundraise is not a problem, and then, of course, sub-grant out to other entities. The challenge that we had as United Way and to our donors is, what's going to be the results? The challenge we run into is making sure that whatever the community investment is put into through donor dollars is that we are making some measurable gain and we're making some measurable difference. You know, broad strokes are great, what we would like to accomplish. As I shared with you, we live in a small community of 110,000 people. So we're one of the best places to see where community impact or that investment value can actually be seen very quickly. You know, we complain that we come from a small place a lot of times, and to everybody that's listening, I am from the Virgin Islands. As I joke with most of my, in most of my commentary, don't let the Yankee fool you. I did grow up here in the island of St. Thomas and did travel between the island of St. Thomas and St. Croix throughout most of my life, and I was raised here right in the territory. But the main important component is that we're here to support. There are programs that we can traditionally fund. What we've noticed is there are some bigger issues that we need to advocate and tackle. And so we're taking on a larger presence of this is what we see as a bigger initiative that we can do to support certain, and I use the word defects or ailments that we can strive to. We can either attack a problem with a Band-Aid or we can attack a problem where it's cut. And I like to believe we're going to attack the problem from where it's cut, because you know what? We need to always change a Band-Aid, and I think our community is going through enough that we need to start seeing things that we can change at the cause and at the root, so that we can hopefully make those investments better in the future.
Right. The funds that you raise in terms of local nonprofits, what conceptually, how do they, in essence, can they bring their their community plan to you? Would you fund them?
What I'll tell you, and it's simple, we do an RFP, and RFP will be coming out very shortly for the territory, and we will be providing a community impact grants, and all nonprofits are able to apply. We do fund 501c3s, so it would be for 501c3 or not recognized organizations. And our investment and what we find as the building blocks in our community are in three areas, which is health, income or financial stability, and education. Those are three building blocks that kind of interwoven into what we consider to be a building blocks to a quality life. Education being very important, because if we can educate ourselves, we're able to procure a better job, and that in securing ourselves with a better income, which will grant ourselves some success and some financial security. Also understanding that health is important, because if we're able to understand what risk factors we have and how we can maintain ourselves, that we can have a healthier life, because as you'll hear later in the program, sickness can catch anybody without them knowing.
Right.
And financial stability, because if we understand what our dollar means, we can better invest it, better cultivate it, so that we have future opportunity as we work through our professional lives and careers, so that one point in our life when we're ready to say, okay, we've done our part, and we want to now just relax, that we have enough that we'll be able to take care of ourselves.
All right. Well, one of the things I'd like to touch on, just in conversation, is that in government, sometimes you see initiatives to dole out or make monies available to nonprofits. And one of the challenges that we face is that in one administration, something happens, and this is the thrust of this administration. Another administration comes along, and everything changes. And politics get involved, and sometimes somebody who was supposed to be taken care of as far as getting funding for their organization all of a sudden is out of favor, or whatever the case may be. One of the good things I see that a United Way does is that you have a objective, systematic way in which you assess nonprofits, their programs, and what it is that they do, and based on the merit of those things, you can actually fund them, and they can know that from one year to the next year, the United Way is consistent in how they're going to interface, and that funding isn't subject to those changes in environment and people.
Agreed. Part of something you and I discussed is we are able to succeed and have succession regardless of what a political environment may be. The level of due diligence that we'll put into every program is there. We, again, simply are looking to support the community, but at the same time do right by the donor, or do right by the company that wants to make the investment to make that change. All
right. So in terms of partnerships, does United Way partner in any way with the government, let's say, or any government agency to do things in our community?
Traditionally, we just celebrated our 8th year of partnership with the Department of Human Services. We did do a program that we do in every October toward the end of the year, which is Project Homeless Connect, which what we did is we brought a one-day all-stop community event in every island where we bring ourselves and Human Services bring different services to the community. We did service our homeless population, but the definition of homeless population is actually far broader than what we see on the street. So it was actually more passive care to those and care and support to those that are on the fringe. We have a lot of people in our community that may not necessarily be living on the street, but based on HUD's definition of homelessness, is homeless.
So this is the same event we had down here at our agricultural fair
Correct.
grounds?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
That's the same program. What we were able to do is actually in the island of St. Croix, let's use this as specificity, we were able to actually mobilize 160 volunteers to come out, as well as serve about 150 clients that day. What was beautiful about it was we had joint efforts from Department of Human Services, Department of Health. We had the Frederickstead Health Clinic involved. We had the nurses from UVI involved. We brought Barry University. We brought the community together, not about why or how come, but what we can do if we all just join forces. We were able to give out medical care. We were able to do blood sugar screening. We were able to do blood pressure checks. There were vaccinations done. Not vaccinations, but immunization for the flu shot, and we were able to give free AIDS testing. Department of Health was also able to do free or also do breast examinations. So we were bringing some health awareness into the program. We also got donations from the community. We were able to give fresh clothes, shoes. There was food. There was pastoral care. Thanks to Catholic Charities that prepared the food that day. Then we also had Complex and the students who are in the culinary school that came out themselves and served the food. Not only did they cook the food, but they came out and they served the food and they engaged people. It was actually taking away a stigma, which was, you've befallen, I understand, whatever the situation may be, but you're a person, you live here, you're someone that is important, and we want to make sure that we reach out to you and that you know that we're here to help. And it's a community effort. So it's something that we can coordinate and do in partnership, but it's really driven by the power of our community to come out and care.
Okay. And I'd like to just kind of segue a little bit and talk about some of the promotion that you showed to me the other day. And, there was this one video we were looking about, and it asks a question, can a t-shirt transform lives? And I want to talk about the theme of that t-shirt.
Sure.
Okay? The theme is Live United. And in what we were just talking about there with the Connect program that you did there, I see the evidence of that theme in that, because you recognize that what folks call homelessness, and they have this very limited idea what it means, in reality is much broader. And if we're going to tackle it, we have to unite to tackle it. Okay? So I want to say that I connect with that theme, because everything that this community is challenged with, as a general proposition, is a function of how the community pulls together. Okay? So hopefully I'll get lucky in one of these raffles, or when you all start selling t-shirts, I'll get my Live United shirt also.
Not a problem.
Because the bottom line is that is how we tackle these things and overcome them. And
I just want to add something to what you said.
mm-hmm.
Your local United Way, and I say this to everybody listening in the Virgin Islands, is your local United Way. We are a vehicle or a mechanism that we can band together, come together, and really make a plan for change. The concept of living united is people from all different walks of life who are just passionate about one thing, making our social and basic condition better. That's so vital for me to say to you, because it isn't something that we don't take input from. I've shared with many people that I've been able to speak throughout the territory that we have 4 diverse islands, but we have bigger issues that are in the territory, but then we also have more island-based issues that we would also want to engage and deploy and work meaningful with. So that's just something to share about. The Living United mantra is coming together and just understanding that as a group, we can make a change. And the United Way is that vehicle to make that happen.
Well, you know, the one of the things that happens sometimes is when you live in an environment, you sometimes take a lot of things for granted because things just happen, right? Not this past weekend before, I went over to Tortola with some kids for track meet. And in the process, some of the kids there performed the high jump. And the high jump, of course, you know, you've got 2 stands and a bar that goes across, and you got to try and get over the bar. And we had some young people that they did pretty well. But then it dawned on me that at the track where we practice, one of the places that people would expect we would have that, it wasn't there. So these children had to, in essence, improvise in their mind and figure out how to do this,
oh, wow.
right?
Okay.
But I got an interesting tie-in because from a different perspective, a story that you told me, a true life story, touched me as being the same thing. As sometimes it's when you get in a situation, you realize what you don't have. And then you have to figure out, well, how you're going to get it, how you're going to address it, not sit back and complain that it wasn't there. And you have a very personal story that I would like you to talk about if you don't mind.
Sure. In the presentation that you were at, there's a large initiative that we're working on at the United Way, which is bringing pediatric telemedicine into the territory and partnering with a pediatric hospital to bring service and care. Last January 15, my youngest son, my 5-year-old son, was diagnosed with cancer. And it caught myself and my wife off guard because he's our youngest of 3 boys. And we were sitting in a hospital in St. Thomas, faced with what are we going to do? And we were, urged by our doctor that we have to look at the states because there isn't services available, and at least what she would find more adequate for pediatrics that we needed to address. And, without a doubt, let's go. We had to medevac him out. We had to send him to the States. My wife flew up with him, and then I had to take my family up. And my son had to go through treatments. He had surgery and went through 9 months worth of treatment. But what I realized when I was at that hospital was there are programs that are happening now internationally that this hospital that I'm sitting in is doing work with a small hospital in Russia. And here I am sitting from the Virgin Islands staring at myself saying, I'm from the VI and I'm told that we don't have everything. Why aren't we doing this? And it isn't a knock on our medical system. It isn't a knock on our government. It's not about what we don't have. I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. I applaud everyone for what they do because if you didn't do it, we wouldn't have care. But it's about what we can do if we just redefine what the ask is and what we redefine what we want to be seen here. And sitting down and speaking with that hospital and speaking with the program, understanding that if we can put machines in the territory that can hear a child's heartbeat, can hear a child's respiration, so it could be someone who can do Doppler and see a child's heart, it just changes the way we can care for our children. And taking into the segue of the story that Doug is talking about, is that I ask everyone if we know the population of our 18 and under of youth, or youth population here in the territory. We actually have 1/3 of our population is under the age of 18. We have about 33,000 children. And we have in the area of 2,000 live births a year. So 1/3 of our population, and what I'm given as numbers and statistics is we have about 6 pediatricians territory-wide. When we talk about a problem or something that we need to address, this is something that, coming from the United Way and doing research and having my own story with my own son, seeing that there's a need, and it's a benefit for us all. Everyone has a child or a grandchild, or a niece or a nephew, and no one would want to see some of our most vulnerable hurt or having to think that we don't have the care that's required. I can share a story that is very true to this. My son was one of 3 children that had a particular tumor, all from the Caribbean. My son came from the Virgin Islands. There was a young girl that came from Jamaica, and a young girl that came from Haiti. His type of cancer is very rare, very treatable, but very rare. To sit in a hospital and see that 3 children from the Caribbean were there, the difference in life and death for these children was being able to have a standard care to diagnose. What broke my heart was there was a family from Haiti that lost their child because they did not have the diagnostic equipment that was able to even identify that. I'm thankful we had it in St. Thomas and here in the territory. But the truth is, can we do better? Can we make it better? Can we make it where families don't have to jump on airplanes and fly to Puerto Rico or fly to the States and disrupt their life and actually be able to do something here locally and partner with our local doctor? Again, taking away from nobody. We all have our function. We all have our need. We all have our basis. But I'm just looking at, can we as a community say that we want to enhance this care? And then this initiative that I've brought up to you is starting with pediatrics. And the goal is eventually then to manifest it when we're successful at the pediatric one, is to actually then make it for geriatric. So it'll take care of our elderly. The biggest challenge we face right now in the territory is we have a next door neighbor that everybody hears the news is going broke. And that challenge is also creating a problem with their medical care because there are less people living in the island of Puerto Rico. And we've been so reliable to take that 30-minute flight and see that doctor.
Okay. Now, I'm listening to you, but I have the advantage over our audience.
Yes.
That I had that conversation and everything else. But there's a connection that I don't think we may have made yet, okay, which is that you're here and we've got good doctors, but certain type of equipment, certain type of we don't have, okay? And you go away and you have these type of things and you have the doctors. But if our doctors were trained and or had this equipment or could work with doctors somehow in New York or California or Russia or wherever. So what are we talking about here? Technology is coming into play, some kind of how that we might be able to do some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Here?
Absolutely. I mean, I just happen to engage a hospital that's in pediatrics, and technology is changing the world. The internet and the access to data makes us be able to talk to each other. It's taking everyone with the iPhone FaceTime, but being able to use that technology to diagnose, to listen, to see a patient, and to actually have the subspecialty. The key thing is the subspecialty. If there's a child who has asthma, having access to a pulmonologist who is trained in disease of the lung. If it's a child that has a challenge with a heart, it's having a cardiologist who is trained in cardiology. It's having, just having those subspecialties in place so that that consult can happen here while we're here. And the best thing about this, it isn't only limited to medical treatment. What I didn't get to share with you is an initiative to bring actually psychological treatment through telemedicine so that we can have counselors or psychiatrists that can actually support our children off an iPad. It's wonderful to be able to have that type of trained clinician be able to be there to support us.
I love your passion, okay? And I want to tell you something, and you're going to smile when I tell you. Do you realize that you made the connection, the one key word, telemedicine, okay? Because and we're deep into it. But folks in the community, I want you to be clear. What it is we're saying here is that through this initiative, we're talking about being able to do a consult. Well, a consult might, from your experience, you know what it means. But it means that if you have the right equipment here, but you don't have the expertise here, the expertise can remotely, through the equipment here, do a consultation, telemedicine. And all of a sudden, we're saying that you could be put in a position where you don't have to travel to get that initial idea of, well, do I even need to go off island, or is what needs to be done something that through this technician talking to our folks here that they can do?
Correct.
Yeah, and this is great. So now, in this initiative is something that through an organization like United Way, networking with the people that deal with United Way, and I want to stress, folks, United Way is an international organization, so they have resources to call upon, technical resources as well as networking and big business and the whole 9 yards. So all we have to do is ask. So we're tying all of this in through United Way to make it happen?
Correct. And you know, you mentioned something you strike on. Since I've become the CEO of the United Way 3 years ago, I've also identified resource development is very important, and we have a smaller population, and so it's also making sure that the businesses that service our territory, the businesses that make profit margin on things that they do, are also kept to a certain social responsibility. And I'm not talking about just the local businesses. I'm talking about the exporters. I'm talking about the big shipping companies and even those companies that ship their products via their agents. Is simply saying, if we're going to consider the Virgin Islands as a business model for you in your bottom line and profit, what are you going to be doing socially to make an investment to that client base that you serve, not for them to just buy toothbrushes or toothpaste or Pampers or milk. What are you going to do so that we can sustain our society with resources to help us? So that's a bigger picture that comes into how we can game change it, because there's only so much. And there's a lot we can do locally, but having those resources and having those connections are very vital for us to make the mission move forward.
Okay. Well, in that context now, we talked about several things, but in terms of order, and I'm talking about our meeting when I came to your presentation.
Yes.
I want to talk about cultural reinvestment and the strategy that you all have in terms of cultural reinvestment, because I think our folks take a lot for granted every time they go to parades. And
Correct.
Let's talk about that.
The one thing I ask in most of those presentations, and I get a show of hands, I ask everybody, who goes to Carnival or goes to a festivity, right? And everybody puts their hand up, and I ask one question. Do we know how the floats and how the costumes are made? And most people will look at me and say, yeah, well, you know, either we'll do it. I said, does anybody come from out of town? And everybody will say, yeah, we get people from, and the one island that gets thrown out the most is Trinidad. We get people from Trinidad that come down and do things. And the Cultural Reinvestment Program is a job training program. What we're looking at in this job training program is partnering with labor and putting a program for our at-risk youth that, let's be honest, that have left school, that are right now not trained or do not know what the next step is, and have to live in the condition of, I need to eat, I need to be able to live, I need to be able to have something going on for myself. And this program is targeting as a training program for our youth, or even depends regardless of age, training program to teach them cultural identity by teaching them artisan work and cultural things, or cultural work that we can support our 3 festivities that we do here in the territory. We have 3. We have St. Thomas Carnival, we have St. John Festival, and then we have St. Croix Festival. And as a government, we put money aside with our Carnival Committee. Just as private individuals, we spend tens of thousands of dollars to get things to be made. Now, let's look at this idea. We train locals to do this. That money stays local. It gets reinvested back into our community. That helps business, that helps our community, but better yet, now those individuals who are trained can go to other islands, can do the same thing and export their talent out of the Virgin Islands and bring those dollars back home. So not only do we say to someone, you have value, but now you're an entrepreneur. Now you've figured out. There's a saying we have, teach a man to fish or give a man a fish. Let's stop giving fish. Let's teach them how to fish, because they'll survive and then take that trade and take that investment. And what's beautiful about this particular program is it's about the Virgin Islands. It's about something in culture that we do, and also something in culture we do in our region. We are a country or part of a territory in a larger region, that this is historically only happening in this region. And that means that if, depending on whatever walk of life you're from, whatever island you're from, if you're from anywhere in the West Indies, you have carnival.
Well, let's kind of go backtrack a little bit. Here we have United Way. United Way of the Virgin Islands. The funds raised from United Way of the Virgin Islands stays in the Virgin Islands.
Stays local. Yes.
All right? And not only that, but they have a process through which the 501c3s in the Virgin Islands, if United Way says, hey folks, we raised $1 million, all of them can bring their program to the table.
Correct.
And based on a merit type of objective basis, United Way can decide how they're going to divvy up that money to fund local 501c3s.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. So, folks, we see that United Way is about a United Virgin Islands way. All right? We go a step further. United Way embraces, how shall I say, out of the box, or let's do away with the box thinking, where you say, hey, folks, we have a problem here where we can't afford to have all of these doctors here for everything that we need, but we can have equipment that will allow consultations to be done that can save lives and save great costs. And through this initiative of public-private partnerships, potential partnerships through our hospitals that definitely can benefit from these type of partnerships, and all of a sudden we can bring aspects of healthcare here that before we were stuck with having to jump on a plane and hope that when we get there we'll find out in time what we need, as opposed to finding out in time from now what
Correct.
we need.
And the beauty of that, just to share with you why telemedicine is also vital, if you go and do any testing in the Virgin Islands, if it's a blood test or even any imaging, and then you fly to see a doctor stateside, they make you retake every test. So as a patient, you pay once to get the test done here. Then you're told, well, we need to refer you. And when you go stateside again, you pay for the test again. If you have a partnership with the stateside or with the hospital that is already reading everything, we don't have to retake the tests. You just show up with the same tests. You show up and actually see the doctor. And that's if you need to. A lot of things can actually be done just by telemedicine, and follow-up can be done in a few months or in a few weeks, whatever needs to be done. But the beauty is we're actually now saving money, because you don't have to take the ticket, you don't have to take the car, you don't take the hotel, and you have to repay that test. And a lot of times we have high deductibles. So someone may have $1,000 or $2,000 deductible, and that Doppler scan is an $800 thing. And now you have to go do it twice. Because if it's an emergency, we all know insurance, it'll take 90 days for them to actually post it. Mm-hmm. And the hospital's going to say, no, you need to pay now. You deal with your insurance, but you need to pay now. So there's so many things that come with healthcare and the stress of it. And something you mentioned about my story, and this is something I made a promise to myself when I was sitting in the hospital. I make a promise that what I went through with my family, I didn't want any other family to go through. Because the fear, the unknowing, just the not sure what's going to happen. Because the worst thing anybody can in this world have is a sick child. Because as a father, as a parent, you feel, what do I do? And that's where your faith comes in. And I'm thankful that I have a strong faith. And my son is doing well. My son is in remission. We survived the test, is what I tell everyone. God is good. The most important thing is that seeing what I saw and living what I've been able to see, I can see that there's things that we can do. And I just hope that the community can rally around one of this particular program, because it doesn't benefit United Way, it doesn't benefit American Red Cross, it doesn't benefit Cancer Society. It benefits the Virgin Islands. It benefits everyone from Christiansted to Frederiksted, from Coral Bay to Cruz Bay, from Bordeaux to Red Hook.
Let's talk about a very important aspect of United Way. How does the community get involved with United Way?
Well, thank you for asking. There's a lot of things that we are asking the community to get engaged in. One thing that we've launched that's new in the territory is our Service Saturday program. What we have established is we're doing outreach with volunteers in every island, and we've named it the United Way Service Saturday. This past Saturday, we were able to bring 30 volunteers together, and it's being Senior Month. We actually went and replanted gardens in the Flamboyant Assistant Care Senior Home here in Barron Spot. We had 30 volunteers. We had our donors from Gallows Bay Hardware to Food Town to Plaza to Home Depot get together and say, that's a great idea, give us some resources. We got our volunteers together, thankful to the extension program at the Department of Agriculture, or UVI, excuse me. Persons came out and saw that there was a genuine need in supporting and changing a senior's life. We were able to rehabilitate a garden, put in beautiful new flowers, seeing the smiles on the faces of the seniors that said, you know, now I come outside and I have a reason to come outside. I can come out and water my plant, and I want to see this tree grow. I want to see this flower bloom. And just see that we can engage our community just by giving of ourselves. And sometimes we think that's cost too much. And to those that are listening in the audience, something I share with most that I meet when I go into my presentations. I'm a man who has a ponytail. And I joke about this because when I walk in, people all say that, you know, it's fashionable. And I share with everyone, well, I'm not that fashionable guy. I'm actually growing my hair out so I can donate it to Locks of Love and to a breast cancer charity that makes hair pieces for women and children who are afflicted by the disease of cancer, who are going through treatment. And when I share this story with everyone, it's sometimes something we can basically do nothing, but just by doing it and having the care, we do everything. And that's sometimes as simple as it is of giving it yourself, which is letting your hair grow and donating it can change the life of a child, a life of someone who's afflicted by disease, just to know that they can have their dignity while they're going through this process. And that's just something I want to share with everyone because it's something I like to share that's so simple.
Well, you know, you made my mind run on the other video that you have in promoting the United Way, and there was one phrase on there, walk the talk, because it's easy for people to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but how do you get to doing something? How do you get from saying there's a problem to actually showing something as this is a solution, this is a way that we can get past this, you know, and walk the talk. And everything you've discussed here with me today, everything that I've seen, it says United Way, it lives their name. They walk the talk of their name, which is to unite people, bring people together, to focus resources in the community, to make things better in the community. And I just wanted to say that because I think that is the biggest thing that you've got going for United Way. And it's so important that the community understand that who United Way is. They're not some stranger, they're your next door neighbor. They're the person that works at WAPA, they're the person that works at Human Services, the person that works down the road here at Kmart, that just happens to live across the street from where you live.
True.
That's United Way. And so the things that we see happening is United Way reaching out and bringing people together to support their own community.
And change the social condition that we call today. A bright future is based on people believing that the future is bright. Mm-hmm. And having that knowledge that together we can make it better is all we ask. Let's make it better together. Yeah.
I really am glad that you contacted me in terms of coming here today. And one of the things that I said to you before, and I want to reiterate it, is that this isn't just today. I'm hoping that whether it's 3 months from now, 6 months from now, as you expand your operations here in St. Croix, that you're going to come back and we can follow up and talk more about what United Way is doing in the community.
Absolutely.
Okay?
That is not, without a doubt, a problem. Absolutely. It'll be my pleasure.
All right. And definitely when we do the Connect program next October, let's start talking about it from about 2 or 3 weeks out so we can rally the community because I'm sure there are other organizations who would be happy to get involved and support how we take care of our fellow man. These days you got to be political correct fellow person.
Yes.
Anyhow, folks out there, you know what I mean, right? Okay, don't mind a dog here tripping over his tongue. You know what I mean.
I would just let you know, but there are in every community a group of organizations that work with the United Way as well as DHS that do support. So what we're hoping is, and I say this so that we appreciate everything that you do in Connect. There are many of you that go unsung and just do the work because it's what we do. But I just want to take the opportunity when you mention it just to thank them. But at the same time, for anybody who wants to engage and become a new member and bring their 2 cents to the table to make it better, we're always open to hear. That's all we can do, make it better.
All right. Well, WSTX is a community-minded station. In that context, we really do appreciate when our corporate citizens, our nonprofit citizens, our business citizens, right down to our volunteers, go out there and give of themselves to make efforts like this successful. So just keep in mind that at some point in time you have your sponsor list. I saw some of them already. And that's what I'm saying. You get with us several weeks, a month before, and every time you come in, we talk about some of them, go right down. Let the community know who's getting involved and inspire someone who's not involved.
Correct.
To get involved. Because United Way is all about a United Virgin Islands way. It's all about reinvesting in our community to better our own social condition.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing your campaign on the radio, seeing it on TV, and seeing the fruits of that labor in our community. I really am. And I'll say that don't ever take for granted, please, that United Way, everybody knows who United Way is. It was an education for me. By sitting in that presentation, I'm so glad I came to that presentation to truly understand, because sometimes you say, oh, I know them, I know what they do, and you really don't in that sense. So it was a very good experience for me, and I say to the public, United Way has been here, and some of the things that we may complain about, we have a tool that we can use.
Just one thing I'm going to share that I did share with Doug and the group that I met with. We do currently have a free prescription drug card that is available.
How could we forget that?
That is available for anybody in the territory who does not have health insurance or a drug plan. Can actually visit our website at www.unitedwayusvi.org. You can actually go to the link and see what we do, and it'll be under prescription card. You can actually print a card online and have a card that you can use at your local Kmart and local pharmacies. Secondly, it is also available if you have a smartphone. You can actually go onto your smartphone to either Play Store or to the App Store and look under the word FamilyWise, FAMILYWIZE, FamilyWise, and you download an app that will give you a virtual card on your cell phone.
All right. I am so glad you brought that up again. Folks, we have a situation here on St. Croix where we had Provenza, and we had retirees who thought they had insurance, and then one day on a Friday they got notification that on Monday they didn't have insurance anymore. And what this does through United Way is bring a situation where we bring some hope and relief to these people who now find themselves without insurance. That in fact, if they had medication that they had to have, that by using this, they might get up to a 40-45% discount on the cost of the medication that they're going to be needing. So folks, just another way in which United Way systematically not just come, but been here and doing, is helping us here in the Virgin Islands and making it possible for our social environment to be one of benefit, not of struggle. All right. You hear that music there? That's my theme music. This fires me up every Thursday whenever I hear it. Anytime I hear it, for that matter. But I want to say that it was a pleasure having you here on Reflections, and I'm looking forward to you coming back. And since now you've broken the ice, we can maybe focus on some specific things that you're doing and definitely connect the community.
Sure, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
All right. Okay, folks. Reflections, WSTX. Great, fantastic, outstanding, plain, excellent Thursday. Laying the way for a great Friday. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.